Hello, everyone. This is Vicky Esther Cheng, and we are deep into the season of podcast, State of Our World, Humanity for Better or for Worse. And today I have Alex Chen with me. We're going to talk about ethics and AI and humanity. It is 9:12 p.m. here on a beautiful Monday evening. What a warm, humid evening here in Singapore. A shout out to Singapore, to the rest of the world. We always welcome you. It is me, your um, wonderful, warm uh, co-host here, Vicky Esther Chang. Can find us on the Platinum platform, and we are going to dive deep into the topic of AI and humanity. And with me, Alex Chen, a wonderful co-host, and his episodes has broken records because I've got like 20,000 overviews over the last 28 days that actually incrementally influence the rest of the videos. So thank you, Alex, for your wonderful dissect of this topic. Alex, tell us where you are and what are we going to talk about today?
I think we need to continue our conversation with ethics. I was just saying to
Yeah,
you right, just
yeah,
before the show,
sure.
the more we dig, the deeper it goes, and the more I think the more questions and answers. And I think that really should be the way. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm still back in Singapore, right? You're right; it's getting a bit hot. I'm quite sure the
You
other
know,
parts
you,
are as
you know
well.
what? For the benefit of our audience, the listeners, and the audience on Facebook, YouTube, and all the other platforms on delayed replay, we talked about AI and ethics last week. I think people are starting to really talk about it. You know, even when we talked about AI last year, or let's not even talk about 12 months ago, because we are racing against time. Things are accelerating like in a breathless rate. Alex, even like 2 months ago, when we first talked about AI and humanity, there was a little pockets of different schools of thought. People are talking about pro AI and people talking about the dangers and the threats and AI arms race, and we covered that a lot in the last episodes. And ladies and gentlemen, please go below here or YouTube to look at our conversation on AI and humanity. Now more voices is more voices are coming out everywhere because we're talking about not only generative AI with super intelligence AI agents AI agency that they say that AI agency will take over the control of humanity and also we are going to talk about maybe not now but maybe in the future talk about quantum technologies, but it is accelerating so much. And myself being someone who's a novice, I get into it so much for the current affairs. It scares me, Alex. Just 5 days ago, you have three countries in the Middle East. You've got Dubai, you've got Qatar, etc., coming in to invest trillions of dollars in AI, are trying as much as possible to be the superpower of AI from the US. And Navita is going to start some AI communities and AI schools with trillions of dollars to train, to train armies of AI specialists. I mean, like what Jensen Huang says, this is different because AI in itself is an industry. It is not just an app, it is not just a technology, it is not just electricity. It is in itself it's a whole new world of industry you're talking about. So we are in this midst of really revolutionizing how the way the world is going to work. So we're going to
Mhm.
sit tight and wait for Alex to kind of demystify all this that's coming out that is kind of breathless.
Yeah.
Alex,
Look,
yeah,
I mean, it's incredible, right? I'm not sure whether this
yeah,
is a first in the world, but UAE,
yeah,
United Arab Emirates, right? They
yeah.
they set up a Ministry of AI.
Wow.
I don't know
Tell
whether
us.
this is the first in the world, but they want to be a global leader by
Yeah.
2030, something like that.
I think they
It's
can.
incredible. I mean, you have Ministry of AI.
Mm.
What do they do?
Yeah, yeah,
So whether is it regulation, or is it legal, is it ethics, or is it technology, or is it, so if you think about it, right? So it is, look, I think the key point here, AI, if you look at from a ministry government
yeah.
perspective, AI is going to touch every department, right? So for
Mm.
example, AI is definitely going to touch defense. It's
Mm.
definitely will be touching transportation. It will be touching finance. It will be touching literally manpower, right?
All across all technologies, I mean, all kinds of industries.
Yes, I mean all kinds of
Yeah,
technology. So look, I mean it sort of makes sense. I think they got it all
yeah,
thought out, to actually formulate, and set up, not only just a AI strategy. I'm talking about UAE here,
yeah,
United Arab Emirates, but to also set up a ministry just on
yeah,
AI, right?
yeah.
But of course, we don't exactly know. I don't know exactly know what they're doing, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they have a vision.
Yeah, and you know,
That's quite incredible.
when the CEO comes top down and they put in all the resources and all the priorities, things will change and things will shake. You know, Alex, when we talk about AI, you know, we talked about ethics last week, right? We talked deep into it. We talked about copyright. We talked
Mm.
about I mean, getting all these copyright, even myself, my books out there, how am I going to be paid, etc. This is a contentious issue. And I think what Jensen Huang has spoken recently in some of the interviews when he was in the Middle East with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because they were like, you know, signing all these kind of contracts to pump in AI into the Middle East. You suddenly feel that yes, the world is going to be different. And not only that, I mean, to kind of like just to slow down a little bit for our audience, Alex, you know, there's this talk right now whether the future, which is now, is going to be in abundance, right? Because we
Mhm.
talked about that some episodes ago, and the books are coming out about abundance. And I think I can't relate to that because Elon Musk keeps saying, you know, we're going to be living in a world full of abundance and everybody's going to be filthy rich, but you got to keep up with it. And I think, and at first I didn't understand. But ladies and gentlemen, stay with us, Alex and myself. You know, Alex, I went to think deep about what they mean. Now think about this. Elon Musk say there will be a world very soon that everyone will have their own robot. And when he said this in the interview in when they were in Dubai signing the contracts for trillions of dollars for investment in I thought, is that crazy a statement to make? Everyone will have a robot, but I think uh, everyone wants to have a phone, right? He says there's going to be billions of robots on Earth, and everyone will have at least one robot. And I think, wow, we've got billions of handphones, right? I mean, I've changed my phones like for 10 phones already throughout the years. And we're into the upteenth year of this is a huge machine, right? This is a smart machine we're
Mhm.
talking about, and everyone has it from Africa to Antarctica to the Himalayas. We are all using the phones. If we want a phone, a smartphone, we want a robot. And I think his words are not wrong because of coming from a visionary, we have to keep up with the vision. And I don't think it's wrong to say that the world is going to be in abundance. If 10 years ago, we won't be streaming like this and we won't be pushing out content forever for perpetuity. And I won't be having a channel in like over 30 countries, right? So, in that sense, when I review the statements that some of these scientists are talking about, particularly Elon Musk says, this is a world of abundance, and everyone will want to have their own robot. And that clicked when I think about the handphones that I have as compared to the analog phones that you know my fathers and my mothers grew up. Alex, so this is something that I wanted to
Mm.
put in context. to the people who are listening in to think that, you know, what Alex and we are going to talk about, it's not something of, it's of Greek language. They are already happening. And when we're talking about robotics, it is already happening. And you will want to have your own robot. I already
Right.
have my vacuum cleaner robot,
Look,
Alex.
I mean, we're talking about we wanted to talk about ethics today, right? But since you touched on the
Yeah,
topic, we'll divert a little bit, right? And we're talking
yeah,
about vision here. So the question here would be, we're talking about the world, right? What kind of world, the biggest problem that we have right now globally, right?
yeah.
So can AI solve things like that? For
Mm,
example, can AI solve climate change? Maybe,
yeah. We can
maybe,
stop using cows,
right? So,
plow
but
the
of
ground,
course,
the
AI
plow.
in itself is causing climate change because its use of AI is not sustainable, right?
The
But
energy, yeah,
if the output of AI, so imagine, of course, you need input of the AI, but if the output of the AI, right,
yeah,
is able to have a positive impact, meaning beyond net zero, meaning
yeah,
that they whatever the problems that they solve,
yeah,
right, can mitigate whatever input of whatever energy that they have in terms of creating the AI. Potentially, I think that's a potential use case. Can AI solve global poverty? I think
yeah. I would
perhaps it
love to
may,
talk. Yeah,
because global poverty is not about abundance, not just about abundance, it's about distribution. I think there's enough food in the world, there's enough wealth in the world, right? But the problem here is about distribution. So again, the question here, would we be able to get AI or whatever? Let's not just talk about AI in itself, we're talking about technology, right? A combination of technology coming together to make the world a better place. I think potentially there is hope. But of
yeah,
course, on the other hand, you can lead to disaster as well, right? So
yeah,
which is the reason why it is so important, right, to really have a conversation
yeah,
about ethics, because ethics is about the action that guides us towards whatever path we choose.
yeah. Yeah, and,
So
and
that's
ladies and gentlemen, go down below, click onto the PowerPoints, click onto the points or the notes that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about them in general. And if you're interested to join us, please drop your comment. I've got comments on Facebook that, this is the conversation that people should be talking about.
yeah,
Um,
it's
and
important to
and I
talk about
really,
it,
yeah.
right? I
So
mean,
we,
really,
we yeah.
now you got me started. Global,
Tell me,
I mean,
please.
now you got me
Global
started about.
warming.
Yeah, not no. I'm talking about hunger, right? I'm not talking about poverty here. It has, I mean, there is a real potential use case in terms of being able to solve it, because if you're able to, you make agricultural practices more efficient,
Yeah.
right? And you got to be able to. Is again, it's about logistics. It's about
Yeah.
distribution. If we are able to distribute things more equitably, I mean, it's more equally and more efficiently, right? I think it's also about safety as well. And if you can make the world a
Yeah.
safer place, so all these comes into play. I'll give you an example, right? I mean, for us, what we do, we do have a platform that is in the Supreme Court in Singapore, right? So, but we know that platform, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, right, can reduce barriers to justice, which means we can actually improve access to justice.
Mm.
So that is, if you are able to do this, just
Yeah.
for, say, for example, the courtroom here in Singapore, but if you are able to do this on a global scale, then AI would have a positive impact, right? Which means whatever we do, whatever the carbon that we burn, right,
Yeah.
using the AI, the results will be positive. So I would think that this
Yeah.
is a good thing, right? I personally believe in that. So I think,
Mm.
let's not just talk. It's
Yeah.
not really just about AI, but really about technology and how we use it, and the
Yeah.
combination of technologies as well. So the future is immense.
Definitely.
But
Definitely. I mean, when you think about some of these terms that some of these scientists are talking about, it does seem totally un, unfathomable, because I'm listening to speeches that, of course, on the one hand, there are lots of threats. On the other hand, there is the abundance, etc. And I think about how the digital universe has created and how e-commerce has created. E-commerce has created a lot of small SMEs, open up all the borders because they do not just sell within the street that people can visit them, but they can sell worldwide. And that's why you have companies that are Shein, and then they grow so huge, they're so small. And also the YouTubers, people make millions out of being a YouTuber, for example. It's a whole new industry. So what I'm saying is, when I hear these speeches, when people say, okay, they're going to invest billions and trillions of dollars into AI, of course it sets me. Um, I mean, I can't stumble a bit because I'm not in an industry, right? I got to relearn everything. However, if you look at the world we're in, we are really in a different world. People are making tons of money through TikTok, and you've got small businesses who just survive and thrive on TikTok because they just have a TikTok shop, right? And then you have Amazon, and then you are able to break down barriers of. I would say that the future world, though we do not know what's going to happen, we do need to have this guardrails, which is what we're going to talk about, so that people can thrive and people do not suffer from threats of AI. And we did talk about jobs, we did talk about businesses. So why don't we go into today's few topics, ladies and gentlemen? Look at the bullet points below. These are some of the points from Alex. We've got AI ethics, differing cultural values, varying legal and regulatory framework of different countries, different places, geopolitical competition, pace of technological advancement that we need to keep up, defining intelligence and consciousness. That's really interesting. Hope that we can talk about that. Balancing innovation and regulation, and also the black box problem, and finally, diverse stakeholder interest. Yeah, a lot of things that I hope we can cover. I'm not quite sure we can cover in about 30 minutes or so. Do come
Right.
back everyone tomorrow. Alex, tell us what stands out most for you for AI and ethics.
I think the most difficult part,
Yeah.
to me, the elephant in the room in terms of the question would be: can we even expect, an AI player or a platform to adopt
Yeah.
a single set of universal ethics? I call it universal ethics. Is that even possible? Right? When I look, I think, for example, we're not even talking.
We can't even agree on LGBTQI.
I mean, look, yeah, exactly. So, what the points that
Yeah.
you brought out just now? I mean, the points that I
Yeah.
wrote. I mean, like, for example, differing cultural values.
Yeah.
That alone will stop us from having a
Yeah.
universal set of ethics.
Yeah.
So, if let's say it's not possible to have a universal set of ethics, so if we look at Meta, right?
Yeah.
Facebook, social
Yeah.
media, and you're
Sure.
not even talking about AI here. We're talking about social media,
Yeah.
right? Would they be able to adopt a universal set of ethics?
Mm.
It's impossible. So I can, in a way, I can appreciate. Okay, maybe I wouldn't use the word appreciate. Why Elon Musk, right, say that, we're not gonna regulate, we're not gonna, in terms of the content, we're not gonna touch them anymore. We can't handle it, right? I sort of
Mm.
really understand that, because if you're talking about a single set of ethics, right?
Yeah.
Then the question is, whose ethics, right? Because if you look at ethics, it's sort of a framework. It's sort of the rules that we use as humans that dictate our behaviors, right? That's ethics. But
Mm.
ethics is based on morality, right? So morality in its very, very basic, simplest form is really about the idea of treating each other with kindness, with respect, right? That's
Yeah.
morality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, between me and you, we have our conscience as well. But morality, moving from morality, you form ethics, and then from ethics, are you expect to form a set of rules, a set of even the legal framework? So again, you have to think about the chain of thought here. You have morality, you have ethics, and then you have your legal framework. Is that,
Mm.
is that even possible? And
Yeah.
legal, then if you're talking about legal framework, are you talking about a global legal framework here? I
Yeah.
don't think so,
Yeah, it's going to be
right?
so tough, right? We had so many years from the Kyoto Protocol, and now we talk about the Paris Convention. We can't even agree on the climate change for over 20 over 20 years.
And that's only a framework. We're not even
Yeah,
talking about legal, because when it comes to
yeah,
morality is, let's assume, let's play colors,
yeah,
right? Morality is gray, right?
yeah,
Ethics slightly become darker, but in the legal
yeah.
framework is a set of rules. So you need to say, okay, this is right, this is wrong. So it's important for
Mm,
that, because the judge eventually will have to pass a decision to say that, okay, this is not legal and this is legal,
yeah,
right? Eventually it will come to that. But if everything's gray, and right now, not only talking about differing cultural values and
yeah,
AI, we're looking at a very global world here. Then
yeah.
you have geopolitical competition, your geopolitical issues coming back and forth, right? So if, let's say for example, as your book, Vicky, your book, where is it published?
Published online first, and then it's after that it's published pen and paper,
Yeah. So
printed.
imagine it's you, right? You're talking about you in Singapore, and if somebody in, say another country, Brazil,
Poland.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, Poland or whatever, right? Decide to take your book and copy it. And we're not even talking about AI here. We're talking about legal jurisdiction,
yeah,
right? Are you able to, legally sue them? Perhaps yes, but imagine the complexity.
yeah,
Imagine the difficulty here,
yeah,
right? So current framework of the current legal framework, right, of the current world,
yeah,
it's going to be inadequate, right? It's already inadequate because, number one, I would say that the difference between, I always say that there's a difference between law and justice,
mm,
right?
yeah,
Justice is justice, but law is expensive, because if you can't set the law, right, then there's no justice, right? Because you have the legal
you can't
system, isn't it?
enforce. Yeah,
Right? I mean, copyright, you have to sue the other guy
yeah,
in Brazil or Estonia or whatever country that made a copyright issue.
yeah,
Then how are you gonna? And especially if you have no resources, if you're a small player, how are you gonna?
yeah.
How are you gonna take on the likes of the Apple, of the AI,
The
Microsoft or whatever? Right? It's impossible. So I think there is a lot of things that we have to think about in terms
yeah,
of the entire legal framework and the ethics and the morality. All these are interlinked.
yeah,
All these are
yeah.
interlinked.
I mean, when we talk about, for example, copyright last week, right? We
Mm,
talk about copyright and, Chat GPT. Now it's able to churn out the cartoons like Charlie Brown, the
mm,
Peanuts, and I think, and then there is a new group of British artists who band together. Um, to actually try to get a law passed that their material, their intellectual property, should not be used by AI. And then it didn't get passed in Parliament, in the British Parliament. That just came out, I think, last week. Elton John, you've got all these huge superstars with a lot of money. They can't bring it up. What about small people like us, right? That, I mean, we can make use of all this information, but will we be sued one day for using ChatGPT to churn out Charlie Brown cartoons, for example? One day they will just say, "Hey, we'll start suing all these individual people who are using it." Will that ever? I
Look,
mean,
I
that
mean,
can
UK
happen,
is.
right? From a legal point of view, as a user.
Look, I mean, I think what the news about Elton John came, I think, last couple of days, and that's
Yeah.
really good. I mean, you have the Silent album that is by the 1,000 UK artists in protest
Yeah.
against the UK government, right?
And
And and obviously I think the word that Elton John used was criminal,
Mm.
about
Mm.
stealing, about committing theft for,
Mm.
and they
Using that
allow,
material, yeah.
yeah, and he's accusing the British government of allowing this copyright, this theft, right, by the tech firms. However, as a nation, I think the UK government thinks that, or believes that, in order for the UK to gain an advantage in terms of
Yeah.
technological advantage of using AI, it's
Yeah.
important for AI companies to be able to use all these copyright materials as data. So
Yeah.
I think a couple of episodes ago we talked about AI in economics.
Yeah.
So I also truly believe that AI, the current state that we are in, right, we will have a new set of economics. So I believe that when streaming came online, streaming, right, music streaming, there was a lot of hoo-ha as well. As I think even
Yeah.
to today,
Yeah.
the streaming, the economics of streaming is still
Yeah.
not cast in stone yet. It's still evolving.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
believe AI is really going to fundamentally change how um, the economics it will work. And I think I want to introduce something that I've been thinking really about, an AI, because
Yeah.
the reason why the British government, the US government
Mm-hmm.
want to go ahead and do all these laws and know all the various policies, and including the Middle East countries, setting up Ministry of AI and things like that.
Yeah.
The reason why countries want to do this is
Yeah.
because they want to create what I would
Yeah.
term as AI capital.
Mm.
Capital
Tell us.
is created by AI, right? And this
Mm.
is going to be very significant, right? It all along here has been technological advances, and
Sure.
whoever has all these technological advances historically is able to gain an upper hand.
Yeah.
So if you understand, I mean, for the last 300 years, the West is leading. The reason why is leading because they had a technological advantage
Yeah.
in terms of, they have a British Navy, they have the Navy, right?
Yeah.
They have good use of gunpowder,
Yeah.
guns, right? So all these are used for the one word which is called dominance. Again, we go back to the conversations that we had. So it's
Yeah.
really about dominance, right? And we are, like you said,
Sure.
we're in this race, and the reason
Yeah.
why we're in this race because all the countries are trying to build out this, what I would term as AI capital,
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah.
right?
And back to some of these frameworks. I'm not sure if Alex know that. You must have heard about it. About a month ago, from the Chinese government, they already announced the regulation that anyone who uses AI generated images must declare this is AI created. So I thought that that was good. Um, I don't know if it's going to transcend into writing material, other kind of material, but they were talking about images and news that was created by AI. You have to declare and let the people know this is fake news, or this is fake comedy, this is fake image. So I thought that's ahead of the rest of the world.
Right. Let's I think let's put things into
Yeah.
perspective. I think that's a good thing, right? Obviously, but I also think that we also need to be able to credit whoever. Look,
Mm.
again, it becomes complicated, right? Because
Mm.
if you
You
declare
don't
that
know where
this
the
is,
source is.
yeah, where the source is, and say that, okay, I created the image, say for example using ChatGPT, right? And in the likes of, say, Peanuts, right, Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
So I think I need to declare and say that, okay, this is created by by AI using on for Charlie Brown or by Peanuts, right? But I
Yeah.
think you also should also credit the original, whoever that produced the work,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think it's also very important to say the prompts
Yeah.
and what you use it for. So I
Mm.
think, but however, um,
Yeah, it gets a bit of complicated. Just to also add value to our discussion. You know,
Mm,
I watch. I would say that I subscribe to a lot of groups, Facebook groups, um, on my various hobbies, my interests like art, painting, drawing, sculpture, art in general.
mm,
And of course, we do know the famous style of Vincent van Gogh, for example, you know, in his later years, you know, the big, huge strokes that it's almost like insanity. You know, so that is something that we know. If I'm trying to churn out an AI art in the style of Vincent van Gogh, I could attribute that to Vincent van Gogh, the original painter. But it gets a little bit harder, I find, because I get the painting from maybe the third source downstream. I couldn't find out who is the author or who is the painter, who did it originate from. So that is the difficulty, I think, which make it more complex because I can't attribute that. If I were to use that um, for certain development, I would not be able to find out the original source of the information. That compounds that complexity, right, Alex?
look, you say art. So I think there are two kinds of art right now. One is
Yeah.
art, right? I would say art, and the other one
Human
is
art.
digital art, right? Of course,
Yeah.
art that's in digital. So what
Yeah.
you are saying is that, if let's say I go out and generate an AI, right,
Yeah.
for or in the likes of Vincent van Gogh or
Yeah.
whoever,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that is digital art.
Yeah.
But I think what we're talking about is, can you actually get that as a real art, meaning
Mm.
that you is not in a paint stroke and a paintbrush. So I think the question here is we're still nowhere near that yet, meaning that you cannot reproduce, an AI still cannot reproduce in actual brushstrokes. So
Mm.
I think that's gonna be I think, to define what is
Yeah.
AI, what is non-AI. I think right now it's still digital. As long as digital, I think there's a big question mark on whether the
Yeah.
authenticity on in whether is it done by human. So I would
Yeah.
say that
Yeah.
all these artists, right, who
Yeah.
who who are real artists, I think they still have a market, because I think there's
Mm.
going to be a value in terms of the analog aspect of actual art.
Mm. Mm.
Meaning, like I said, I think in order to
Yeah.
be true artists, you have to go analog,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
I think that's really going to be key.
Yeah, and the other complex question would be if someone tries to take the digital art and claim it that that is their art.
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be difficult, right? No,
I don't
nobody's going to.
know. I
First
don't
of all,
know.
nobody's going to believe me. if I produce a if I produce a piece of art in digitally, nobody's going to believe me, right?
Hmm.
So I think there's still a very important analog aspect when it comes
Yeah.
to art. So I think that's going to be um, that really gonna be the defining definition, the difference between real art and art. I mean, yeah, like for example, a sculpture, right? You can't do a
Yeah.
digital sculpture.
Yeah.
Perhaps a 3D model, right? Or in a
Yeah.
virtual world, but even that, I think, I that look, I think we're in an age where you mentioned the discussions that we had before a year ago, things change, right? I think it will be at this point for the next easy 5-10 years.
Yeah.
We can ask the same question, but every year the
The
answer
answers
will
are
be slightly
different.
different. The answers are going to be different,
Yeah.
right? So we can ask the question again. So I'm quite curious, and I'm quite keen, right? If we do this in 2020, I mean, we have this AI humanity series, right?
Yeah.
On AI ethics and all this in 2025. I'm curious, say for example, if
I
we do this again next year, are the
in
questions
12
still?
months in the 12 months time is going to be totally different. I mean, even our answers are different 1 month ago, right? You know, things are really like shaking up
Well,
already.
I would say certain things will be timeless, because I think certain things are timeless, meaning morality
Yeah.
is timeless, ethics are
Yeah.
timeless. But when it comes to transcending into the legal framework, the
Yeah.
how, the
Mm.
debates, the conversation, I think is going to be different, right? So
Yeah.
today, the reason why today if we talk about AI in transportation, we only have, if we talk about transportation, well, maybe we're talking about buses, we're talking about
The autonomous, right? We're talking about
yeah,
autonomous. Yeah.
but 3 years down the road, we'll be talking about autonomous uh helicopters, right? That is transportation. So that again is a
Yeah.
totally different conversation,
I mean,
right?
we wanted to, yeah, just to add to that note, autonomous, um, I think we wanted to talk about like the autonomous vehicles. Even, you look at some of the clips, the video clips that comes out from the internet. For example, the Tesla cars, they weren't able to detect a last minute accident, but the driver had to gear it. Of course, there are other successful cases where the Tesla cars was able to detect and kind of veered away from a potential accident. So, that is a contentious issue because at the end, is it the company, is it the car, is it the owner's fault if there is an accident? But I'm not against autonomous. But I'm looking forward to having an autonomous car because I failed 3 times or 4 times for my driving, so I don't have a license. I don't have a permit to drive, so I'm really looking forward to autonomous driving.
Yeah, so you mentioned, right, that that's where the difficulty is, because you have the word autonomous, right?
Mm,
Autonomous means action, meaning that you have to decide on the action
mm,
from autonomously, right? So
yeah,
whenever action, there has to be a consequence. So the
mm,
consequence here would be on the legal framework, right? So for example, as a human being, you hit somebody, there has to be a consequence. So what if a robot hit somebody? Would that be a consequence? And here would be, who bears the consequence,
the
right?
owner,
Owner of the
the
robot, or
manufacturer,
the
or the
manufacturer of the robot,
manufacturer.
right? So
Yeah,
so I think all this is going to
we
come
got a
into play.
back-to-back contract.
Yeah, I mean, quite interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
last couple of months, I don't know whether you've been watching. There are some crazy robots or humanoid robots are going attacking
Yes, in China. I
workers,
mean,
and
I'm just saying because they were testing the robots, right? And the
yeah.
robots just like go haywire. It started just like go
So
going
so
into the different directions.
so can you imagine, right? What kind of impact it would have? Look,
A
I mean,
glitch. Yeah,
if a robot goes nuts and it injures a person,
yeah, yeah,
this person, not just talking about just the legal framework, but how
yeah,
about insurance, work safety?
yeah,
Right, so they were looking at a whole new world. We're not sure exactly, like you said. I think these are areas where we will not, well, we tend not to think
yeah.
about it until
And
it
there, and
happens,
there
right?
and there won't be any case laws to rely on because there are no past cases.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, well, the
It's
judges or the
huge, right?
juries of the world,
Yeah,
I think they would have, and it will depend on, again, in order to pass judgment, right? What do they have to depend on? They
yeah,
have to depend on their own, perhaps their own set of ethics and their
yeah,
own set of morality, right?
yeah,
And all these are gray,
yeah,
and all these will eventually come on board, and I think it will be a very, very interesting next 5-10 years on things that happen, because eventually, at some point,
yeah.
somebody will die, right? Look, it will happen for
It's
sure,
already
right?
in the news, right? The I think it's the AI, right, was encouraging the
Mm,
boy to take his life. I mean, and that came out a couple of months ago. But let's not go into the dark. But let me look at
sure.
some of your points. Could you demystify what you mean by um, defining intelligence and consciousness? Um, there's so much information right now
Mm,
that I'm reading about consciousness. There's a question that I'm going to throw to you and to our audience who are watching. There's this question. Um, uh, it's almost like gravity, right? Um, Newton. Before Newton discovers gravity, it is already in existence.
Yes.
So there is a question right now. The consciousness of AI, um, and the black box of AI. There is this discussion, whether AI, artificial intelligence, it's already in existence. You are just now discovering and not developing. So there's this huge talk right now, in a very, I should say, in a very spatial, um, realm, spiritual realm, beyond the the technical part. So I'm not quite sure if you mean by that the consciousness of AI, because people are really talking about, even though you do not know the sun, is it really in existence? You're just discovering it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
tell us about what you mean by intelligence versus consciousness here.
Well, again, there are a couple of schools of thought. You would think
Mm,
that if I mean we all believe in that we are or everything around us is created by a supernatural being. If we believe in that,
mm,
then it also means that whatever that we produce potentially is a form of
discovery.
creation, and which is already there. So we
Yeah,
don't invent science. We
yeah,
Science is about discovery, because
yeah,
it's just about knowing. It's just us unraveling whatever the truth that is already happening. So
yeah.
perhaps in a way, if you put it that way, then
Wow. This
AI
is so
AI
interesting.
yeah, AI potentially could be created by a supernatural being, right? If you think it that way, right?
Because there's so
Um,
much discussion right now in another aspect. I hope that we can
sure.
continue this conversation because me being someone who believes in the creation, and there is this talk that just like it's hard to fathom, but we are all made up by atoms and molecules,
Mm,
right? Even though you kind of peel yourself, but you really are just made up of atoms and molecules. It's hard to see, but that's it.
right.
So
So
there's
actually,
so much argument that we are just discovering the world right now.
I mean, if you look at it from the perspective where we are discovering the world, that we are, like
Yeah,
as you mentioned, we are atoms and molecules and particles below the atomic level, right?
yeah,
But that actually, if you think about it, is the amazement is actually not that. That's not the
mm,
amazement. The amazing
yeah,
thing is that how all this connects, right?
yeah.
And it becomes a system, and then a
Yes,
system within an ecosystem, and an ecosystem
yes,
of ecosystems. And then if you look at the galaxy that we have today is,
yes.
right. So
Wow.
so
That's exactly
again,
what I read. That's exactly what I read, and because it's almost like, are we now in a simulation?
okay.
Actually, wow. I'm not even going to talk about that.
let's
That's a
not
new
let's not start there. I
new
mean, I
debate.
always had discussions about this. Let's not go there.
Really? No, we should continue with that
Let's not go there.
tomorrow.
Let's not go there. Look, but okay, I think we need to define. I mean,
Yep.
we're talking about going back to the intelligence
Yeah.
and consciousness, right?
Yeah.
I still, at this point of time, I'm
Yeah.
of the camp where I do not
Yeah.
believe machines have consciousness, right?
Mm.
Consciousness is
Yeah.
it's just another level where it's like saying the machines have morality. I don't know, machines
Mm.
do not have morality, right? So
Yeah.
so look, AI consists of a couple of things. Okay,
Yeah.
in order for AI to happen, of
Yeah.
course AI needs hardware, meaning that it
Yeah.
needs the chips, it needs power, it needs arms, legs, whatever, right? It needs hardware, it's a
Mm.
combination of this. The other thing that it needs people, meaning that without,
Mm.
I mean, currently at our current state, right, we still, robots cannot create another AI. Well, we're probably getting there,
We're
right?
getting
But
there.
like I said,
Getting
at
there
this
already. They
point,
say in a couple. They are already self-writing their own codes up to 50%.
right, but I think it's still very instructional, meaning that you
Yeah.
need a human in order for things to happen, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing here would be, well, we need some human to work on the logarithms, the algos, right?
Yeah.
And also the humans to discern what kind of data that you need to feed in.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there is recently that we're talking about AI. You don't need data anymore to train AI. So that's another discussion.
Wow. Now that's something that I read from Tsinghua 大学, right?
Yeah.
Tsinghua.
Yes.
I'm not quite
See that?
sure what the Tsinghua 大学, they say they do not need any data, that the
Yeah.
machine can actually learn. Now that's like groundbreaking. We got to see how
Yeah.
true that
So I'm not
is.
exactly sure what kind of neural network that they're using, but
Yeah.
assuming that's. But the
Yeah.
point here is that in order for AI to work or
Yeah.
to be created, right, to
Yeah.
come from somewhere from to
Yeah.
get that genesis, right, it
Yeah.
needs multiple inputs, and all
Mhm.
these multiple inputs still require human, right?
Mhm.
And if humans decide not to have a certain ingredient, so look, there is still no consciousness,
Yep.
right? So you, the robot or the AI, whatever, right? Because imagine
Yeah.
a baby without teaching it, it will know how to walk, it will know how to talk, it will know how to, because of whatever that is surrounding it, right? And you'll be able
Mm.
to grow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You will be able to learn, and that, as I mentioned, right, is all the atoms and all coming
Yeah.
together, right? It's
Mm.
not just about the atoms, it's not just about particles
Yeah.
and bodily functions, all that, but we're talking about real
Yeah.
growth here.
Yeah.
So AI capable of that? I no, I don't think so. I mean, they're not growing, right? So
Mm.
it's not organic in that sense. So I would say that it's very important to define what is intelligence and what is consciousness. So I would
Yeah.
say that
Let's.
AI
Yeah.
will still not have consciousness.
We should delve into this topic about consciousness and whether we're in a world of simulation. That's the next debate and an argument that's coming out, and
Ah,
lots of debate and discussion from the super geniuses about the mathematical world, because we are just not only formed by atoms and molecules, we're formed by the mathematics.
well, I mean, if you're talking about quantum realm, right? I mean, that's if you're into that, then there's an
We
argument
should
here,
we should
argument
we
there.
should we should have that kind of conversation in order to demystify, because we don't know what's going on.
For the guys, for the people who are, I mean, I'm not no expert in quantum,
Yeah,
just for the sake of it. There's a
yeah,
video
yeah,
by Brian Cox, right, University of Manchester professor. He had
yeah.
I think it's on a Think Big platform. He has an hour video, right, of trying to demystify quantum mechanics. Very
Mm,
good video, very very good
yeah,
video,
yeah,
right? So, but like my point here is that if you quantum mechanics, we're talking about superpositioning, entanglement. That is, I mean, don't quite understand all these things, right? I mean, I'm not a quantum physicist, but even I believe even quantum physicists will struggle with all this. So you're right.
yeah,
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 we're
yeah.
talking about discovery here.
It's all
We're
about
literally
discovery.
talking about discovery.
Yeah, yeah. We
Perhaps we're
will.
talking about multiverse, multiverse, right? So parallel
Yeah, and
universes and things like that.
about the multiverse right now, the parallel universe is almost like I read, I watched this interview. They were interviewing the scientists who developed the not the optic fiber, but the chips. I can't remember his name, but I'll get it out. He was just saying that um, if you walk into a room, right, your radio is not on, but there's already all these frequencies, all these different channels, right? You have the Love FM, you have the 933, you have the 100.3, and you have the 90.5. They're all in your airwaves. It's just about you tuning into that channel. So
Yeah.
I thought that was mind blowing. And it says like this is AI. We could have tuned into a particular channel already. So that keeps me thinking. I mean, it's such a huge world right now. It's a world of science. We never thought that science was important. We thought that we just leave it to the scientists, we just leave it to engineers. But hey, the science have arrived. So Alex, we are 40. 9 minutes into the podcast. Would you like to wrap this up? Because we're talking so much into it. We are on a hook right now for the audience. Please come back tomorrow. It's such a deep topic. Whether we're in a simulation, whether the AI have consciousness, and then whether we're in tune to the frequency as we walk into a room. Um,
Hmm.
Alex, would you like to talk about this the next 3 minutes before we wrap up?
Well, only 3 minutes. Oh God. So this
Right
is
into
this is
50th
going to be a
minute
tight.
now.
Wow, let's start, right. 3 minutes. Yeah, I think the key point here, I mean, to take away, we will not be able to finish any form of have any sort of conclusion, even for the next, even if we discuss this for the next year,
Yeah,
right, on AI
yeah,
ethics. So I think the
yeah,
question here would really be,
yeah,
what can we do? What can be
yeah,
done, right?
yeah,
So I think that the one of the most important here
yeah.
thing that we need to have is what I would say human oversight, some form
Mm,
of human to be able to make a final decision, right?
yeah,
Whether is it for content or whether it's for the action, whether you call it human in the loop, is really about human to supervise AI to ensure whether is it, you know, fairness, transparency,
yeah,
and accountability, and all these are done at I would even say a regional level, country level, because these need to be adapted, right, at a local level, not at a global level, because I think
yeah, yeah,
global on a global level is just going to be very difficult unless we all decide to adopt maybe very simple laws, like, the three laws of robotics by Isaac Asimov, right? Things like that. But I
yeah.
think even then it's going to be difficult.
You know
So,
what, Alex?
mm,
I'm gonna put you on a pedestal. We should have more discussion on this, that Singapore champions and spearhead such a conversation on a global level. The leadership that Singapore takes. I think it's important that we always set the ethical standard in every part of our lives. I think that Singapore can really lead in conversations like this. And we should enlarge such a conversation with more people, and probably take this higher to a next level. Alex, I am so grateful to have you on the podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, you should not miss this, share this, watch this, because we're just now um, touching on that surface. We're not even diving deep because there's so much to talk about. But I hope that Alex can come back tomorrow as we wrap up one season, and as we take a pause for a week, and then we start another new season with him, to talk about ethics on probably on a bigger and higher platform that we can reach out to the world. So, Alex, thank you so much. We are now into the 53rd minute of the podcast. It's always such a pleasure to have you.
I'm
And
happy.
yeah, and such a deep discussion. I really want to talk about tuning into the frequency, because I always try to tune in the frequency of God and the spiritual realm. I do, so that really is very intriguing
Mm.
when I read and watch about the scientists talking about, are we in tune into a particular frequency already? That keeps me thinking a lot.
Yeah, I
Even
think
the
that's going to be
frequencies
important.
that is really around us already.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be important. You're not talking about frequencies, we're talking about spectrums of frequency, right? So if you talk about from the entire spectrum, we are we're not even anywhere, what, 10-15%? I don't even know, right? So how we know
Lots
what
to talk
frequencies?
about. Yeah, I really hope that we can delve in, and we hope to have a more international audience to watch us, and to comment, and then to really let us help you put on your thinking cap and to participate, to be one of the stakeholders of our new civilization that we're already in. Thank you so much, Alex. Come back
Thank
again
you.
tomorrow, same time. It's already 10:06 p.m. Singapore. Beautiful evening here. Um, Beautiful Singapore, and I hope that Singapore has a stake and a say in the direction of AI. We may not be one of the champions in terms of the technicalities of it because it does take up a lot of energy. And they're saying that that's why the Middle East have that because they have lots of energy. That's what Jensen Huang says because they've got unlimited, almost
Power.
unlimited power, right? That's why that's the best place for him to develop his data centers. So Alex, thank you and continue our conversations, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a deep conversation that we can continue to have and take it higher, deeper, and further, and even broader. Thank you, Alex.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.